The Floor Academy podcast is sponsored by Trelama, the trade labor marketplace, where businesses can find skilled trade labor, such as flooring installers, and where flooring installers and other skilled tradespeople can find permanent or project work. You can set up your profile at trelama.com, TRALAMA.com, or download the app from the Apple App Store or Google Play. And remember, Trelama is always free for skilled tradespeople. Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hedin, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. We're here talking with flooring professionals from all across the country about the issues that matter to you. I want to encourage you to learn while you earn. This week's guest is Karen Gross. Karen owns and operates MBD Flooring Services, which does inspections, concrete testing, and consultation services. Growing up, Karen was always around flooring while hanging out with her dad. In 2012, he passed away and she stepped up to take over the company. She has invested in learning as much as possible and participates in an ANSI committee as well. Listen in as we talk about her passion for the industry, how to navigate projects so you have the documentation you need if an inspection is ever needed, and what to consider while working on projects. Karen Gross, are you on the line?
I am. Hello. Good evening.
Awesome. Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a good time. Our mutual friend, Roland Thompson, reached out to me and he said, hey, there's this lady that runs an inspection firm. She's out in Phoenix. You should talk to her and get to know her. And I was like, all right, that works for me. So here we are.
It's so exciting to hear that Roland Thompson brought up my name because he's a huge person that I learned from and a huge person that a lot of installers around the country have learned from and hopefully passing down some really good quality techniques and information.
Yes, he has a lengthy resume and a very impressive wall and a half in his office of pretty certificates and plaques and all kinds of stuff. He's very humble, very knowledgeable, and a huge asset to the industry. So I'm happy to, I'm impressed that he knows me and calls me. That's what I can say.
If he is, yeah, it's a name you want to be on the same side with, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to go up against him, that's for sure. I would lose in a heartbeat. But let's hear who you are. So give me the 30,000 foot view of who Karen Gross is, what you do, how you do it, why you do it, how you got into it, all that fun stuff.
Well, my name is Karen Gross. I've been the owner and operator of MBD Floor Covering Inspection Services since 2012 when my dad didn't wake up that day. So I moved from kind of the back of the daddy's girl. I love to go on inspections with him and just hear him execute and navigate his inspection service, which served nationally in Canada and Mexico at the time. And I grew up in the industry. I remember playing on big carpet rolls in big warehouses while my dad did something. I had no idea what he was doing, selling carpet, I think, and made a couple magazines. I have a couple pictures of myself being part of advertisements. And so I have always knew the industry and participated in the industry and consequently men in my life were in the industry, so I got to learn both sides of it, the selling side and the installation side. I've had the opportunity to experience it all. I've gotten to walk through manufacturer plants too, which is always really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I took over with a man in my life who was a Master 2 carpet installer for many years, and he helped navigate the new company that I acquired, and 18 months later he had passed away. So I really had to, so I had some time to kind of get my hands in on the office end of it, and then have to really step it up and learn. So I have spent many hours in schooling. My certifications cover all flooring types. I've studied. I've went on job sites with people to watch how things are done, manufacturing plants to watch how things are done, so that I really have a very unbiased opinion when I'm walking on job sites, and I'm always learning. Roland's one person, for instance, that I'll call, hey, what's going on? And that's what I find that the best of the best in the industry do is that they call and discuss things. And
yes.
And people that I really admire do that. And when I see them doing that, who I think they knew everything, it reminds me that it is such an infinite. There is so much infinite information, especially as the products change. All the product changes has been changing pretty significantly, even in the time I've been so upfront and close with it. So that's who I am. I was I was a kindergarten teacher for 7 years, so I've learned how to work with adults better. And
I was going to say, you can probably handle flooring installers really well these days. We're not much different.
Exactly. I've learned how to do that. Those kiddos really can teach. Has taught me a lot. I've also am in the fitness world too. So it's been a great opportunity to learn how to lead and learn. For sure.
Well, that was going to be my, that's what I was going to ask was there ever anything else besides flooring? But you did that. So did you really want to go and be a teacher? Was that something you were like super passionate about, or did flooring just constantly draw you back in and you couldn't figure out why? Like, is it something that you're passionate about because Dad was passionate about it? Or is it like it just grew on you? Like what? Because you didn't have to keep the company going, but you chose to. So like, what was that draw? What made you want to like continue that name on and make it happen?
That's a really good question, because I am a national company as well as an inspector myself, and I work with a lot of independents, and one of it is I really love the people in the industry. I love they're very relatable to me because I did grow up in that industry, and that's kind of who I'm drawn to are the blue collar construction working people that are here to that we really make the world a better place, and I relate. So it makes it easier to have conversations and not feel so alone. So I think when I first sat down in my dad's chair, it was kind of an interesting experience. The night that I got to New Jersey and kind of slept in the spot my dad left us in, and I heard his office phone ring, and his office was not too far away from the bedroom, and I got up. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and I know he worked all around the world, but the time frame didn't make sense. And so I looked, and I saw his chair was turned facing the phone. There was no number on the phone. There was no message on the phone, and it was just kind of like, okay, it's your turn. And I just sat down, and it just it kept me there, and I continue to grow, and I've continued to grow, and you're right, I could have walked away, and I did kind of just ask, am I supposed to keep doing this, and on more of a spiritual level, and more kept coming, and I kept being called to grow and get bigger and better, and I don't mean better than anybody else, but just better in my own personal to my own personal goals and stuff, and so so the world just keeps getting better, and I just keep showing up for it, really. I just keep showing up, and it keeps getting better and better, and I just have such a great time. We used to have before COVID, surfaces, World of Concrete. I mean, to me, that was just like some of my favorite parts are going to classes, being able to meet with the people, and then also going to installation classes and meeting with the guys, and really just my attitude is always a win-win, although it may not feel that way to one person, but it truly is. Like, let's all go here to this experience and have known that, you know, at least I left with something.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I've been in the industry for 5 years. People welcomed me with open arms. I don't think there's a better group of people that will just be like, yes, you can become one of us. Like, you're welcome here. We will help you advance and make this all work. And you can, you know, we'll help you build your dreams. Just go and educate yourself and learn. And so those are all the things you're talking about. I did my first services last January in 2019, and that was an amazing time. I was overwhelmed walking around in the building. Like, my mind was blown for 3 days straight of, where am I? What is this place? And why are there so many people here? That it took me those 3 days to really absorb it in and be like, okay, now I can come back in a year and have a better game plan of who I want to talk to and what I want to talk about and things like that. And now, of course, it's hopefully pushed till June, but you know, it's a very interesting industry and how people take you in. So this is a business podcast. We're always trying to like improve businesses. So I want to get into the main thing we're going to do, but I got to ask this question. So you hopped in that seat and you probably felt like you had really big shoes to fill. And you know, you were probably like that little girl again that put dad's shoes on to like act funny when you were like 6 years old. How do you feel now?
How do I feel now? I feel excited to be invited to get to talk about an industry I've fallen in love with.
Okay.
And that I've always loved. I feel excited to be in an industry that I care about continuously improving. And I feel excited about that. There's enough business for everybody. So there's never, like when you said, it welcomes you in, and because we're not afraid, because there's enough work.
Mm-hmm. Do you think? Do you still feel like you have like dad's clown shoes on though? Like, do you think you've like? Yeah. You think you'll always feel that way though? Like, it's just like this. That was dad, and it's like you can't ever get there.
Well, honestly, I feel like in some respects of this industry, I know more, but I've been around when education has been a plethora, an opportunity as an opportunity. But yeah, I feel it keeps me close to my dad, and he was my favorite person in the world.
That's awesome. I think it's hard to like. Even I started everything on my own. I don't have anybody to like compare myself to. I don't have to live up to like somebody that started the company, and I got to keep it going. But I think it's just a business thing. Like, you don't ever feel, if you settle and think you've reached the top, then I think you've given up, right? Like, you have to stay like humble and keep learning and know that you can continue to get better and grow, and you've got to push for that next level. So I think you'll always kind of feel like the shoes are always a couple sizes too big no matter what, but hopefully they fit a little bit better these days. I'm sure it was scary at first. For sure.
For sure. I do feel a lot more confident in that I have access to the education if I need to, when I need to learn things, and I access that at least every other day.
Yeah. It is amazing what is out there. So, kind of main topic, we'll start here. Who knows where it goes? Because I didn't even expect to have this conversation. That's why I love doing this, is you just hear something and you're like, oh, I got to know more. Installers can often get blamed for a failure, whether it's their fault or not. Now, granted, I would say that most of the time it probably is going to end up being installer failure, because there's a lot of poorly educated installers and even proper ones want to take shortcuts here and there, but how can installers, if they knew they had to file a claim and they're going to have an inspector come out, like, how do we get our ducks in a row? How do we help it go in our favor? I don't know if you can make it go in your favor. What kind of ducks do we have to, like, what do we need to get in a row to make the process as painless as possible? And I don't even know if that's a good place to start. Like,
I think that's an excellent place to start. And where I'm going to start is a little off track of that. As an inspector, when I'm writing reports, some reports will take me many, many hours to do. And when I talk to other inspectors that I have a lot of respect for, they say the same thing, because I'm always thinking of that how well supported is this, and that all my information in here, my observations, my testing, all the industry standards support the conclusion, so that if it ever went to court, if it ever went to court, it would be a very viable thing, but also for the reader, that they can really understand what was here and it's well supported. And so backing to your question, and I just wanted to start with that, not to scare the floor installers, but when you're installing a floor, read the instructions and read the instructions. Number one, if you don't understand something, call the manufacturer. And get record of that, and keep record of all the things you did. Keep record of if it requires a flatness. We could talk about flatness and level and slope and all that another time. But keep record of your testing. Keep pictures of your testing, because if it ever ends up, like you said, one time it did in the amount of years you've been, and I've done jobs with installers, 20 years I've been doing it this way, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, one time,
yep.
Do you have your records and pull them out? Because that helps. That helps us understand what's happening. That helps them understand what's happening, so that we can go, did something change since you did that? For instance, landscape, right? And so you can support. I was talking to one big general contractor in here. I can be supportive by doing all the prerequisite moisture testing, the ANSI standard moisture testing, just to have a record to put in the file, so that you can show that you did it, and this was the result. Because sometimes they're going to change the slope of the outside and do landscaping, and something could happen inside, and you can go, here's my record. So for a couple hundred, about $1,000, they were able to show that. So I think record keeping, reading the instructions, and going to school, learn, get better.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a great point. I think I know from which one is it? Probably Hardwood Floors magazine. They've put in like how to
a checklist,
like the checklist for like pre-inspection, during an estimate and stuff. And I know for a fact it says like go outside and check drainage. That's something that NWFA has had built into their guidelines for who knows how long, but it's been there. And I think that's something a lot of installers don't do. I know that I don't do it a lot of times, and bringing up that like they can change the grading and stuff. So maybe even taking pictures of the outside to stick in the file and say, this is what the house looked like at the time of install. And you can see that, everything's graded away from the house, because in 10 years, they might do something dumb and add a hill somewhere, and it's all going to start draining towards the house. So, and pictures are cheap these days, right? Like your phone can take them, and then you just put them on a computer. So
also I would, yes, for sure. Because, for sure. And also if the general contractor says, I want you to do it anyway, when you come as an installer, you come and say, this isn't right, or this isn't ready, or whatever, get it in writing, so that to protect yourself.
So, I mean, there's a good one, and it's been discussed here before, right? So, if I get something in writing saying it's not ready, but I have to move forward anyways, isn't that really more an admission of guilt and I should just stop? I know it's tough, right?
It is when you're hungry. You're talking to somebody who's hungry, wants to put food on their table that week.
Mm-hmm.
Get the contractor to sign off that they'll take responsibility for the how the subfloor is at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
The substrate out here, typically, that they take responsibility. They know it's this and that. But anytime that there's something that they think there's something wrong with either the product or the site, as a professional that cares about the quality of their installation, stop the job. Call the manufacturer, say, this, I'm having trouble with this. This is the findings. Know your bow and skew allowabilities. Know your flatness. The tolerances of your tile. And so, stop the job. Because, like you said, they end up being liable, and they have the smallest pockets.
Yeah. I mean, look, installers can make great money, right? But you got to start somewhere, and your pockets aren't as deep as a manufacturer's. So they got the better lawyers. They've got the better contract written with their instructions and warranty. So you got to play by their rules. And it doesn't hurt. Like it's not hard. It sucks. Look, I tell all my clients, I'm like, I can't judge your subfloor repair until I get to it. I have to be able to see it. I don't know if it's going to be $100, $500, no money, $10,000. I can tell you when I can see it. But what I can also tell you is that if I tell you it's this amount of money and you don't want to fix your subfloor, I will have to terminate our contract at that time, because I cannot continue the job if we can't make it go to the manufacturer specifications. And they just kind of look at me. They're like, what? Like, we're not even in a contract yet, and you're telling me you want to cancel on me? And I'm like, I'm just telling you that if I can't perform the project to my requirements, and that's why you're hiring me, is that I'm the professional and we're going to do it professionally, then we can't continue. And they're just like, oh, well, okay, that makes sense. And it's not like I'm trying to bend people over, right? Like get them in a situation and be like, oh, you need $8,000 in subfloor repair. I'm going to be honest about it, but I don't know until I know. So you got to do what's right for you. But what's right for you is that not having your bank account back the project. That's just silly.
Yeah, that's a very good habit and practice to have, and to promote, for sure. And I believe that the manufacturers want their product to succeed, and that's why anytime I've been on stop jobs, whether it be on the installation side or as the inspector, where I walk into a stop job, the installer stops. It's because everybody wants to know. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a great thing. And also having somebody, an inspector, come out and consult the job before you start, also to help. I know that there's sometimes that's an option that some installers take on some bigger projects.
That makes sense. Like bigger commercial stuff. We're talking, multi-million-dollar schools and office buildings. $1 million
houses.
Yeah. Okay.
Big residential houses too, and some small, but sometimes it's just better to have more eyes than one when you're like, how are we going to overcome something?
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense.
Work.
Okay, so we need to document our findings, right? We need to make sure we're doing our moisture testing. It doesn't matter if we're on concrete, we're on wood, we're a elevated subfloor, and there's the crawl space underneath. We're getting our moisture readings, we're documenting them, we're taking pictures of the exterior, interior, what things look like. Probably good to take progress pictures as we move along, showing what the floor looks like as it goes in and progresses, I'm assuming?
Yep, ambient conditions as well. Leave a hygrometer that will take, for 2 days, and then it'll give the high and low of those 2 days.
Okay.
That's helpful too, although not as much in Phoenix. But don't assume that there's not moisture issues in Phoenix. That's another thing too.
Yeah. No,
With
there is.
Don't assume.
No, I've found it. You actually get a good rain here, and people don't have proper drainage. I took up some carpet, and underneath there was like a giant hutch, and the carpet was just soaked underneath it. And it was I want to say this was like 2 years ago when we actually got a good rain, and so all the rain had piled up or like come down up against the concrete and soaked into it, and it was releasing up underneath this hutch, and the carpet was able to be damp from it. And I was like, yeah, we can't install. I was like, I'll be back in like a week to check the moisture on this. And the lady was just like, wait, what? But my room's torn apart. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do anything. Get that fixed. Get it to drain away from the house. Fill that in. And she was just like, huh?
But it's nice that you want your business to succeed, but also that the homeowner has a successful experience.
Well, yeah. Look, remodels are, they're a pain. Like you've probably remodeled a house. Like it sucks to have your life ripped apart and you can't use your house the way you want it. And the end result is good, but like getting to it is it's like peeling the Band-Aid off instead of just ripping it off. So I don't want anyone to have to go through that.
Yeah, and that's the biggest complaint for homeowners when I'm there is like, I can't imagine having to take out all the furniture we just moved in or we've been here and we have, that's their biggest thing because it disrupts everything, the flooring.
Correct.
Everything.
Yeah. I don't want anyone to have to go through that twice, let alone on my dime. That's just bad business. Right. You're not going to win anybody over that way. You're not getting a good review. So, all right. So we got pictures. We're checking things. We're getting ambient conditions, and this is all kind of like but all of this stuff is going to come back. Like if you have to have a floor inspected down the road and you have a file for each client and all this stuff is in a folder on your computer and backed up on some other hard drive somewhere, like it's going to be easy to find and you can just hand it over. So what other kind of things are we looking at putting in here?
Yeah, that's a big one. I'll tell you, because I did an inspection in another state where the ambient conditions are a lot more extreme than we have within a 48-hour period, and because the installer had those readings, it really helps the end result. It really helped put light on what was happening and what was going on with the floor, and also what the end result was. So it really does make a difference. Yeah, I think, reading the instructions, if they don't understand something in the instructions or the instructions are vague, which sometimes they can be, is to get clarification. And also, one other big thing is understand the installation of that particular product. For instance, with rigid core vinyl, there's different locking systems. And occasionally people come in and install it like they know how to install it, but they hadn't read the instructions to see that this locking system requires this type of assembly. And by not doing it, it caused damage to the locking system, and then ended up. So read.
No, I agree. There's the drop and lock systems that a lot of people hate them. Some people like them. I personally love them. I think it makes it go quicker, but I've seen one where it's like you can tap it in and then another company says you got to go buy a little tiny hand roller that you would use for like seams on carpet, and you need to roll the seam on the end joints to close it and make it tight. And if you hit it, you're going to break it. So totally. I mean, it's funny. Everything's in the instructions, but sadly most installers are men and we're too good for those.
Well, until they have to pay a claim, then they'll, what's it going to take?
Yeah, well,
a painful claim or,
Just read them to begin with. Look, it's on the bucket of glue. It's in the box. It's generally, there's one in every box if, the manufacturer's doing their job. It's not hard. Take the 5 minutes and then read them like every 6 months because they're going to update them and they're going to change something.
They do. They sure do.
Oh,
and it really doesn't take much time to prepare, to do that. Like you said, take the 5 minutes, take the few minutes, and then and just follow them and record.
Mm-hmm.
Keep record that you dropped it off this day. It sat in this room. The end box was open. Whatever. Take pictures of it to make sure it was. I just did an inspection, and that's what the manufacturer came back to ask. Did you notice if they had the boxes opened this way versus this way? And they have that information in there specific to knowing their product so that the air can move through all the boards versus just the top of the boards. It was like the top of the box was only open, didn't allow circulation through the rest. So,
yeah.
Take pictures that you follow the directions. And again, like you said, it doesn't take much extra time in it, and it will create a successful installation, a happy homeowner, and keep the money in your bank.
Hopefully. What about, okay, so a lot of people get mad, right? There's like, you can get dinged for some stupid stuff when an inspection happens, and there can be, the carpet's fraying off in some corner, but you didn't use the seam sealer, or you didn't latex the doorway on the other side of the house, or the laminate and the vinyl plank says no end piece can be shorter than 8 inches, and you put a 4-inch piece in, but it's delaminating on, 2 rooms over. And they're walking through and they check those couple of things, and well, that's that. You didn't follow the instructions, so you fail, like you lose. How do you fight these things, right? Like,
hire an independent inspector.
Okay.
I mean, that's my best. That's one thing if you don't like the result, you can hire your own inspector, and the best thing to do would be to let them do their inspection, ask you wait till you get the report, and then because you hired them, you're able to have the open discussions with them, and and find out. So that's what I would do, because as inspectors, we do want to. I want to give a report that is honest and true, and I'm not biased in my inspection reports, and that's the ones that I work with. We're all very strong in that. If it isn't, we did an inspection recently. I'm like, well, why didn't you include this part of the test? He's like, nothing to do with it. Why would I put that in there? This is the cause. This is what happened. And so we've really gotten a lot harder on trying to not let stuff like that happen.
Okay. I mean, is that something that you've had to do? Have you gone and been an independent inspector for somebody and had to like help overturn something? And then how do you get the manufacturer to recognize your inspection is fair, whereas their hired guy is biased because he's hired directly by them? He knows where his check's coming from, right? Like, he wants to be able to get more work from them in the future. So if he denies a claim, then they're probably going to hire him for another one. And there's shady business practices anyway, right? Like, I'm just trying to say that.
Yeah.
How does the little guy fight back and have a fair chance? Because there are people that are going to automatically be like, well, Shaw hired me. And I'm not saying Shaw hires bad inspectors. That was a name I picked. Okay. But Shaw can hire a guy and he can just be like, well, Shaw cut me the check, so I better make sure they end up on top.
Well, the inspectors that I work with don't do that. And that I hire don't do that because I edit all the reports and I have a team of inspectors that will read reports with me to make sure too, because like I started with, I don't know everything and I learn something every single day. Mm-hmm. And the less I think I know, the more effective I feel like I can be for everybody. So the little guy, so my experience has been a distributor will come out and give their report and they don't agree with the report. So I get hired in and often, and sometimes they're right and sometimes they're not right. And so my report hopefully supports them because I'm a certified inspector. Distributors didn't go to the same schooling that I did. Some of the distributors are really knowledgeable. I've had great conversations with some of them, but it turned over business in some respects in some parts of the industry. You know, why aren't salespeople taught better on how to sell a product right so that specifier error can stop happening so much? Because there's such a turnover rate with the guy that was working there 6 months ago is a different guy that's working there now, you know. And so I guess my best answer is that's what happens. I get hired to come and do an inspection behind other inspectors. They get hired to one guy said to me when I first got in one of my first few classes, he said, "Oh, I know you. I've been hired to fight one of your reports." And I looked at him and I said, "That so?" You know, like that happens. Like he thought it was just like a good remembering that it does happen. We're human beings. Maybe we don't catch everything. Maybe we do. Maybe people don't disagree. Maybe there was more things to see, and it does happen. Mm-hmm. So it's an affordable cost that can save you a lot of money is to hire an inspector. It's only a few $100s, you know.
Well, that was what I was just going to ask. So what is, if I felt the need, right? Like something's going wrong, I want to bring in an inspector. Like, is it 300, 500? Like, assuming we're not going to court, right? I just need you to come out, inspect the floor, give me a unbiased report on it. I'm assuming if you have to start going and doing court days right now, there's going to be additional charges. It also matters if you're local to me. Are you buying a flight? Am I putting you up in a hotel for a couple days? But just, you know, if you came into one of my floors here in Phoenix, you're going to drive 30, 45 minutes and then put your time into it. So what is something like that run on average?
My average fee for an average residential inspection, as long as there's no laboratory testing required, destructive testing required, mm-hmm. It runs about $350.
That's cheap. I mean, like in the grand scheme of things, for what you can make installing, like it's nothing. You know, you're probably losing less than a day's labor. So if you can come out on top for $350, that seems like a worthwhile investment to me.
You know, yeah. If they'll definitely find out why it's doing what it's doing.
Mm-hmm. How many?
And there's a small percentage of the time where it's like it leaves us with a conundrum, but we mm-hmm. always try and work out what's going on. 2% of the time, you're like,
Well, and that happens. I mean, it's
always
there's so many different factors. It's hard to find them all. How many times are you running into issues like I recently turned down a job in a high-rise condo in Tempe here because the general contractor that was in charge of it put down the sound barrier product that was specified by the HOA for the building and the subfloor. And I didn't like the way that it was done. And I was like, well, that's not going to meet NWFA guidelines, so I don't want to put my name on it, because if the floor fails, the floor is just going to fail and I'm going to get blamed for the floor, whether I did the subfloor work or not. Like, that's too much money for what I'm willing to take. So do you end up in situations where you're coming out, you're looking at somebody, party A did subfloor stuff or some kind of moisture mitigation work, and party B did just the flooring work, and you have to like work through it to see who's actually at fault, and just that party ends up with the bill? Or is it floor guy should have better checked everything and made sure it worked, and he installed over it, so he's ultimately responsible because he went over it, which means he was okay with it, if all that makes sense?
It does. And conclusions are, once the report is submitted to whoever the commissioning party is, it is their opportunity to delineate and delegate out who did what, for instance. And so the more that I've been doing this, what we learn in class, and what you hope that inspectors will do, is that you give everybody the voice, the opportunity. Try and call the floor installer. Hopefully they call you back. They don't always. Mm-hmm. Call the contractor. Hopefully they call you back to find out all that information. And luckily, oftentimes they want to be on site during the inspection, even though most of the time they know they're not going to get any information, but they want to impart their part, and you listen, right? And listen and learn, and mm-hmm. Floating floors, who put the wall base on, kind of thing. But in the conclusion, it would say the wall base contractor put the floor base on net tight to the floating floor. If that, we see that quite mm-hmm. often, and it locks up a floor.
Yep.
And so that keeps it open, because sometimes it's the homeowner that put it on. Sometimes it's the contractor that put it on. Sometimes it is and often installers put it on. So at least it keeps it open by saying it like that in a report to help protect. But again, the flooring installer, it's really good to keep records of what they did from start to finish, so that they can help support the information.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like when you read the instructions, it says upon opening this and installing, like, you are accepting the workmanship of whatever product. So I would assume that would go the same way. Like if a GC installs the subfloor and I start installing over it, like, I'm accepting that workmanship as
you are
good, which
you are.
That's scary.
There's some language I heard there may be some language that is coming out that's being more clear on that.
Okay. Well, that's good, because so you are on an ANSI committee, like we've talked a little bit, for subfloor prep.
I am on an ANSI committee for subfloor inspecting.
Subfloor inspecting. So
specific
if you say
to subfloor substrate inspecting.
So if you say there's potentially language coming out, it's because you're helping develop that language.
I don't know that I'm helping develop that language, but I get privy to the conversation.
I think you do more there than you know. They wouldn't have asked you to join. Come on now.
No, I'm just saying, like, I just think that it's so important to differentiate
mm-hmm.
Some of the language, and I don't know that it'll be in the subfloor substrate standard. I just have had conversations, and I can't remember exactly what it was. Okay. So, just kind of take that as hearsay right now.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm not saying we're not saying that there's going to be stuff to keep you free from
floor.
it.
If you put flooring down on top of a substrate, you have accepted the floor as things are written now.
Yeah, which
I think it's actually NWFA. Anyway, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
being recorded, so I want to research that before I say anything else. I just know but
No,
there
you're
is.
good.
You own the floor. You put it down.
Mm-hmm.
Instructions also say make sure you look at every plank. That is so hard to do when you're laying planks, and people are like, "How come the installer didn't see that?" Because he's 6 inches away from it.
Well, correct.
And so, and so we do understand the difference. But if you're putting a floor down that has an obvious thing, so we do understand that, and that's why we want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm. No, and I mean that's a great point, right? So we were talking before we started recording, and so I've in 5 years, like I finally had my first claim with a distributor / they technically own the flooring label name, so they're kind of the manufacturer, but third party in Southeast Asia makes it. They just slap their name on it. But I was installing this LVP floor. And, like you said, I'm a foot away. I'm 6 inches away. I'm just putting it in. It's this giant open loft of like 500 something square feet. And I'm just going to town because it's a big rectangle. So it's going down quick. The homeowner comes upstairs. He's like, "Hey, Kyle, what's this?" He was like, "This plank looks different." I was like, I don't know. Like, everything looks good. He's like, "No, stand up. Look at this plank." And there was no sheen to it. There was 6 planks and all this flooring I had put down that had no sheen to them. And all the other ones had like this, the light would hit it and it had a slight like reflective quality to it. And so these 6 were just straight matte. And I was like, I don't know, there's something wrong with them. And so luckily, I was able to stop, take pictures, get with the manufacturer or the distributor right away and say, "Hey, like this is what's going on." And we were able to sort through it. It took some work, but they were like, "Look, there's nothing." Like it took a couple days, and they were like, "Okay, yes, you have a clear case. It's totally on us. It was manufactured that way. No worries. Your labor claim is accepted. We'll get you a check in like a week or two." And I talked to him today, and I should have a check next week. So I was even amazed about that because I was like, I went through a lot. Like I made 3 trips to there and back to like pick up different lot numbers and try them. And I kept having bad goes. I had to take it up and put it down and take it up and put it down. And like, I was fairly generous with myself for what I did. There was a lot of work involved. There was a lot of installation, uninstallation, packing it up, getting it downstairs because it was an upstairs loft, back into the truck, back down to the distributor. And they didn't even like question what I put down on the bill because I had asked some other people before I did it. I was like, "How much can I go for?" They were like, "Just bill for your time, be honest." And so then I expected them to question it a little bit and like nothing. They were just like, "Yep, approved, good to go." So all I can say is my first experience with a claim was I had proper documentation as quickly as possible and it was like seamless. But I hear horror stories all the time. So is this because installers aren't doing their due diligence? They're not documenting things? Like what makes it so painful for people to go through these things?
They didn't do what you did.
Oh, hold on a second. I lost you. I'm sorry. Why is this being this way? Don't do this.
I can hear you.
There we go. Okay. We're back. My recording software got goofy, but I think we're good.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back on.
Okay. Well, they didn't do what you did.
Okay.
Installers, where they noticed it, stopped it, went and complained and handled it like that. They just leave with the homeowner holding it or say, "Well, you need to go deal with it." So I don't know that I've only been on less than 10% inspections where the installer took initiative like you did. and two of them were here in Arizona. So, and I do travel to do inspections, although I do work with independents around the country. And I always appreciate an installer who's in the trade that appreciates their value.
Well, and this one made it easier, right? Because I sold the flooring. So, like, I am ultimately responsible for it. It's not like they bought it at Home Depot and I just installed it. Not that I won't take that client on per se. I may turn them down depending on what product they select. But even then, like, they're paying me to install it. Like, I can easily grab the instructions and make the phone call for them and say, hey, I'm installing this. This is the problem. What do we do? Like, I don't know why you would want to just like, oh, not mine. Have fun. Like, they don't know what they're doing. They hired you for a reason. Why? I don't know. Maybe I'm different. Why would you do that to somebody though? Why would you just be like, oh, it's on you? Like they paid you. You're the professional. You're supposed to be the expert. Help them walk through this process.
Scared and hungry, and be certified. Be ROC certified in this state too. It really helps you, helps everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a no in Arizona and anywhere that you can be a licensed contractor through the state. Like, look, there's definitely, we can get into the conversation of, is the state overstepping their bounds? They really need to be involved, blah, blah, blah. Like, is it just a money grab? I don't know. Like, it costs me a couple $100 a year, and it gives homeowners peace of mind because if there's a problem, they can go to the registry of contractors, complain, and I have to keep a bond on file. And if there's a claim, they can take it from my bond. So what's peace of mind worth? Like I said, it's a couple $100 every couple of years. Big deal. Just pay it.
Yep. I think I'm very excited for whoever takes the time to listen to this podcast because they do care about the value of their trade and to be proud of your trade because the flooring trade is a beautiful trade. It's a really beautiful trade. It makes or breaks a home and you bring value to that home or to that office. And I really appreciate those that still care about it rather than just, coming in and slapping something down. And the homeowners that are listening to this and the manufacturer that are listening to this, I really appreciate taking the time and to value education, to value, not that I taught anything, but to really value the trade enough to make time to spend in it and hear about the wrong things that are being taught and the right things that are being taught and to care about that.
Well, it's going to make your life so much easier, right? Like, how do you, I try and get my 11-year-old to understand this because he thinks he's going to become a YouTube star still.
There's a lot of money in YouTube stars.
There can be. Well, who knows when he becomes 18 and can actually do it without me like helping him. Because he won't do it as long as he lives in this house and he's not 18. Not going to happen. But he struggles with math still. Like he's in 6th grade. He doesn't have his multiplication tables memorized. So he struggles. If I yell out 4 times 8, he's like, I'm like, oh, come on, kid. Like, you got to know these. And I was like, what are you going to do when you work in the world and you're given a paycheck? I was like, you got to check that. I was like, do you think your employer is going to be fair with you? They're going to pay you your overtime if you get it. They're going to make sure they take out the proper taxes. I was like, you got to double check people's work. He's like, oh, no, it'll be fine. I was like, all right, so when you're a YouTube star and you have a manager, you're going to just trust him to like pay you the right amount of money? You're not going to know what your contracts are worth? He's like, yeah, it'll be fine. I was like, you're so screwed, kid. Like, without the smarts, right? Like without the education, like we can't do what we need to do. And that's really like the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. And continue to learn. Honestly, having a teaching background, there's a lot of different types of learners and we find the support out there that can articulate and regurgitate the information to you so that you understand because you're worth understanding. You're smart enough to understand. You have the capability of understanding, find the right ones that are going to give it to you. And, and the classes are affordable and ask the instructors to show and a lot of the instructors are also inspectors, so they understand both sides of it. How do I protect myself? How do I grow my business? How do I market? Get the support. You deserve the support. There's enough work for everybody out there.
There is. There really is, especially right now. Like the business is going nuts with how many. There's no home inventory, and so people are just taking out home equity loans to improve their homes because they don't want to move, and so there's always plenty of work. You don't need to underbid people. Charge what you're worth. Be fair. You're going to be just fine as long as you're doing quality work and you're honest. Getting the education.
One of my mentors says, make sure that you have, when, like, for instance, when COVID happens and as an inspector, people didn't want us in their homes. So because we have other certifications and other practices, he was able to attain a lot of work. So learn your trade and learn how to expand and expound within your trade so that when there's shifts and changes and market changes and things are happening, you have access to be able to utilize a different skill.
Yeah.
And so by going to the classes, you're interacting with people that have all different skills from different areas of the same industry. And so so that's another benefit too while you're doing it. And if there is a shift and change, you're like, oh, great, I have this skill I can pull out of my pocket and start to do concrete moisture testing when I can't do flooring inspections, that kind of thing.
Well, like you said, the classes are cheap, right? Like, I think people...
They really are, and they're everywhere.
They get such a bad rap. Everyone's like, oh, what do I need to be certified for? And, like, I think it takes a special kind of installer to understand that the certification is a marketing tool. The education is what you're after. The networking that you get to do with your peers that are there, people that are willing to spend money to go to a class and not be on the floor making money or, whatever part of the industry they're in. You're spending money to be there. Like, it takes a special individual to know that that's going to be worth more down the road than what you would make that day. And those are the people I want to get to know. Like, that's why I like meeting the people that go to certifications. And, like, I'm looking forward to be able to go and do more now that they're finally starting back up. But here's the deal. It's not just marketable.
It makes you a better installer. For instance, tile. The homeowner shops the tile and you go install it. Know how to understand there are, TCNA standard for flatness of the tile. However, it's pretty loose so that there's a good chance there might be lippage once you install it to allow the homeowner to have the expectation of what's just about to happen so that you're setting them up too because you have the education of understanding how to measure it properly. So, and why go to class? Because you may be passed down from your father and your father and your great-grandfather a bad habit that didn't hang them back then, but seam sealer is going to hang you now if you don't have it installed. It's going to hang you now. So it isn't just a marketing tool, although it's a good one because people respect it and you can charge more for it. It's also going to help you have access to people when you're on a job and you're like, shoot, I don't know what to do here, which comes up, this corner, that corner, how to cut around this issue or whatever it is that comes up for you, that you have access to those people in the industry. You keep that the people are passionate who are on that end, like you were saying, because we care about the industry, we care about the quality of the industry.
Correct. It puts you with a different type of person. It's not the standard guy that's just trying. The guys and gals that are going to these things, they're not the ones that are necessarily hungry and they're trying to work paycheck to paycheck to paycheck and project to project. Like, these are people that are taking their business seriously, and they probably got a little bit of money in the bank. Like, they're passionate about what they do, obviously, because they're there, and they're taking things seriously. Like, they want to see the process evolve. They want to get to that next level. And so, like, for me, those are the people I want to meet with. Those are the ones I want to know. Those are the people I want to be able to have on speed dial. And I do have on speed dial. I know I've probably got 50 installers in my phone that I can call at the drop of a hat, depending on what situation I run in, and say, what is going on right now? Like, what do I do? What's your opinion on this? How would you handle this? And I can get honest, good feedback, and I can call 2 or 3 of them and then make my own decision on, okay, this is how I want to proceed with it.
And you're a guy that I would recommend when people ask me on the side to recommend somebody, because I usually don't, and I often get asked, do you know a wood installer? And so people who do that are the ones that I would recommend.
And it's so easy. Yeah. Just do what's right. I don't know. I don't know. I from what I see in the grand scheme of an industry, like it's interesting that trying to have a business with integrity and to do what's right by the client seems out of place, and that doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, and the manufacturers aren't against you. Work with them, often or not. And I can call claims, talk to them, because they have tech departments, and the tech departments are putting floors together and they're testing stuff. And those guys have been on their knees too, a lot of them that I've met.
Yeah.
And so bring it together. Don't be afraid to call and push through the gates to the tech department and ask. I call tech departments and ask
with you.
About their products. So, and the proper installation stuff. And I don't even say who I am, so there is no.
Yeah. No, I mean, I know a good buddy of mine, Andy McWilliams, has moved on from installing. He now works at Novalis. So they're, big LVP manufacturer. He's on their tech department now. It's nice to have him at like the drop of a hat to be like, hey man, what about this? But just in general, like, we have to partner with people. Like, installers don't like retailers because the retailers want to get one over on us and they're making money off our back. And the manufacturers are, like I said before, right? They have the bigger lawyers and the bigger pockets. And so everything's written in their favor, but it takes partnerships. We all have to work together. Okay. The floor could get manufactured, but it's not going to get sold without the retailer. It's not going to get installed without us. So we all have to work together to make this system come and flow the way it needs to. And there's no reason to hate one part or another. Like, we all have to respect each other and what we bring to the table. And I think, you said earlier that the ANSI committee you're on has people, maybe we didn't say it on the episode, it might have been before we started recording, but there's manufacturers, there's distributors, there's inspectors, there's installers on it. Like, it's a very well-rounded pool of people, and there's nothing stopping anybody from getting on these committees. I think you have to join ANSI for like a nominal fee every year, and then you can say, hey, I want to join this committee, and you get to join the committee, and then you get input on it.
I really like one thing that you said about how the guy that went from the floor and is now a rep for a company, and that's also something to think about as you're educating yourself as a floor installer. Go to the schools, educate yourself, be a good floor installer, and when your knees start to give out and it gets hard to be on the floor, you could start to see and understand that there's other places to go. Because Correct. I work with, that's why some people get into the inspection trade, because they're too old to install, or they become owners of installation companies, or they move on to being technical managers and places like that. And that there is more to what you're doing, and the value of that you're having to the industry to shift and change throughout the industry. The value you offer because you have hands down experience is invaluable. It is the most valuable because you play with the stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's 100% it, right? Like, whether you move into inspections, you go and be a tech rep for some manufacturer, you become a sales rep for one of the tool manufacturers, you become sales for a retailer. Your installation experience is going to play such a vital role in anything you do, because you're going to have insider information on how it actually happens. And you might be able to provide that one detail on that one new tool or that one new product that just makes it all fall into place that was being overlooked. So don't kid yourself that you're ever just a flooring installer. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Your knowledge is way more valuable than that, for sure.
Absolutely. And I enjoy your trade. I enjoy watching, installing. I don't enjoy, it's a lot of work. It's hard work.
It can be.
And so, do it great. Do a great job. Be proud of what you do and keep records.
That does it. Right there. Keep records. Enjoy what you're doing. Keep records of it. Protect yourself. And it's not in a bad way. Just be able to show why you made the decision you made.
Keep records, educate, learn, learn. Keep getting better.
I love it. All right, Karen. Where can people find you if they need if they want your inspection services? Do you have like a blog or anything with information, or are you doing anything like that? If they have questions, how do people find you and reach out to you?
Real simple, Karen at thefloorinspector.com. You can email me, Karen at thefloorinspector.com. You can go to thefloorinspector.com. My company's name is M like Michael, which was my dad's name, Michael Bravo Delta inspectfloors.com.
Awesome. I very much appreciate your time. I thank you for all the insights. I thank you for the inside information on something that not everybody always, hopefully people get away with never having to experience an inspection. I truly hope that's the case. But if you do have to go through one, I think everyone can feel better prepared.
Spend the money.
Sure.
Spend the money. You're either going to walk away learning something and bettering yourself as a trade, or you're going to walk away with protecting yourself. So spend the money.
I love it.
Not much. All right.
Simple
Thanks so much.
No.
Very exciting to be here.
No, I appreciate it. It's awesome. I love being able to reach out to all these people and learn. And that's honestly, that's where the podcast came from. Was I was like, I don't know how to run a business. I don't know what I'm doing in the flooring world. Like, I should talk to people. Well, I should record these conversations and just share them with everybody. So here it is.
People are excited to share. People are excited to share. When they find success, they want to give it back.
They truly
do. There's a lot of great educators out there.
Well, awesome. Thank you. You enjoy your evening. And like I said, we talked before, so keep in touch. And I know that you may want to pop in on a job site at some point, and I would absolutely love to hang out and have you visit me on a job site so you can tell me that I'm doing it wrong.
I'd love to. And let me know when this is going to be put out.
Yes.
All right. Well, have a good evening. Thank you again for your time
and
inviting me to do that. I love talking about it. Hopefully.
Yeah. Awesome.
Didn't say too many ahs and ums.
That's okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Awesome. Yep. Bye.
Bye.
That's all the time we have for this week. To keep the conversation going, head on over to the Floor Academy Facebook group. Be sure to subscribe so you can hear each and every episode. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and most major podcast directories. Don't forget to leave a review and let us know what you think about the show. If you would like to be a guest, have questions or feedback, you can email us at flooracademypodcast@gmail.com. You can help support the show by becoming a patron over at www.patreon.com/flooracademy. Remember to learn while you earn.